Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Finding the Origination Point podcast. The origination point is connected to bias awareness and bias deconstruction. And the origination point is the notion that all of our biases, implicit or explicit, have a point in time where they started, where we were given a narrative or had an experience with a small group of people that then we extrapolate to a larger group of people. And the reason why the origination point is so important is because that is the point of healing and understanding. So as we're deconstructing and making our biases more conscious, the origination point supports us in understanding where they came from and healing any emotional impacts that they're currently having in our lives. So sit back, open your mind, open your heart, and let's see if we can find your origination points to bias. All right, hello. My name's Bill De La Cruz, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I've been doing work with communities around conversation and breaking down barriers for a good part of my life, and I have a company called De La Cruz Solutions. And at De La Cruz Solutions, we find answers for complex problems around the behavioral and emotional impacts of race, class, and bias in our personal and professional relationships. We facilitate trainings around bias awareness, bias deconstruction, self-awareness, and all of the tools and resources needed to heighten our self-awareness about how our behaviors and our words impact each other. And I want to start a conversation with everybody about where we are today as a country. We're a country with communities and schools and people that are divided. And the divisions are from the way we talk, the way we treat, the way we see each other, and it's never been as evident to me as it is today in terms of how those divisions are impacting our relationships with each other. It's not that people didn't always get along, because that's part of the human process, that we don't always like each other. And so this idea of having to get along with everybody is just part of our normalized experience that we don't always do. So that's pretty normal. What's more shocking to me is the level of conscious bad behavior we're tolerating as communities of people. What I've been witnessing is that when somebody gets wronged by another person, the other person retaliates with like behavior, yet somehow the person who retaliates is more righteous based on their label, their justification, or any other excuse they're willing to use to not take responsibility for how they just affected another person. And I don't get that. Bad behavior is bad behavior, and there's plenty of ownership to go around for the impacts that we're currently seeing. Some folks use the excuse of being marginalized to treat each other poorly. White, black, and brown people use being marginalized as a reason to treat each other in a divisive way, all the while blaming each other. There are many marginalized groups in America, and some use marginalization as an excuse for demeaning and disparaging behaviors. When you couple all of that with the lack of accountability for one's behavior, the current model and messaging of engaging and relating is more adversarial than collaborative. And the Oxford Dictionary defines adversarial as involving or characterized by conflict or opposition. And if you look at the conversations, the interactions we're seeing in our media, in our communities, in our schools, are pretty much adversarial. And being adversarial is completely counterintuitive to being collaborative and working together. And there's also a leadership style that expertly allows for keeping the adversarial balance constantly within our construct of interaction, and it's designed to create just what is happening. This style of leading is called diversionary, and it's designed to create just what it sounds like, diversions. And diversions are defined in the Oxford Dictionary as the action of turning something aside from its course. And this is how diversionary leaders keep their adversaries off balance and constantly reacting to the diversion rather than focusing on the root problem. The root problem that I see in my work, traveling across the country and having these conversations, is that we're experiencing the impact of systems that were not designed to create outcomes that we need today, outcomes connected to equity and inclusion and collaboration. And when a leader creates an issue to divert our attention from the big picture of systemic change, it causes us to react to individual issues and blame each other using adversarial tactics. So we're basically using the same tactics on each other that are being used on us to divert us from the real issues. And you can't deal with an individual issue without understanding the systemic impact and the root cause. And the root cause that I see right now are that we are all operating in a set of systems that are not working for a large majority of people. And instead of talking about how to change the system, we talk about who is to blame and label each other, stereotype each other, and create biases about entire groups of people based on the behavior of a few. Addressing the diversionary tactics takes our attention and power away from looking at the systemic issues and engaging each other in real conversation. We are all impacted by a for-profit prison system that warehouses people for a profit, an educational system that is institutionally biased, an immigration system that is broken and warehouses families at an alarming rate and within a for-profit detention system, and a fear-based political system that is more divided than I ever seen in my life. When you combine bad behavior, lack of accountability, adversarial relationships with an institutionally biased system, we have a lot of things to talk about, and allowing ourselves to be diverted takes away our attention from the issues at hand. We cannot afford to be distracted by extraneous issues. We cannot afford to attack and denigrate each other. We cannot continue to make choices that perpetuate the divisions in our communities, our country, and our schools. We all have a choice to make about whether we are going to perpetuate the divisive status quo or create new systems that reflect where we are in our evolution as a society. Focus, intention, and purpose are what we need to get us through these times we're in. My wife went to an Apple education conference in Chicago recently and shared this with me. They said that we went from the industrial age, productivity, to the information age, efficiency, and into the people age, purpose. So if we're in the people age, then we need to invest more in our relationships with each other. We need to move from being divisive within our own groups and with our outgroups and figure out a way to have these conversations. There is a solution, and I want to be a part of that solution. And as we continue in this podcast, I'm going to share with you some solutions and some strategies that can heighten self-awareness and enable us all to sit together to talk, regardless of whether we agree or not, in a way that does not denigrate or dehumanize us. I look forward to our future conversations.
Thanks for listening to the Origination Point podcast. If you would like to get in touch or have any questions for Bill De La Cruz, please email him at b.delacruz@comcast.net. That's b.delacruz@comcast.net. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and follow Bill on his Instagram and Twitter. You can find him at BILLDELAC. And be sure to check out our website, delacruzsolutions.com, where you can purchase Bill's book, Finding the Origination Point, and you can also find a lot more content related to these topics. Thanks for listening.